Book of Boba Fett. More like Book of Sad Dad Fett. More like Book of Mando Fett. More like Book of I'm sad that these people that I knew died of Fett. More like Book of Spy Kids Fett. The Book of Boba Fett. Was it good? Sure. It was okay. Was it boring? Yes. Was it exciting? At times, sure. But did it make me care about Boba Fett? It did not. The first 4 episodes were a slog. We learn about Boba, but none of it is very interesting in the slightest. He's no longer this cool, mysterious bounty hunter that we know from Empire. He is now this sad, elderly man who lost his tribe and now wants to take back the spice or stop the spice. It doesn't take away anything from Empire because it happens before then, but they feel like two completely separate characters at this point. The show does pick up in episode 5 when it becomes an entirely different show. That still doesn't help this show overall because it's supposed to be about Boba Fett. Now let's talk about why I didn't care about Boba Fett. So in the first episode, we see him escape the Sarlacc pit and he's captured by these Tusken Raiders. And he somehow gets out of it and is now working with the tribe, but it always felt like he only did it out of necessity and not choice. I think at first it was supposed to feel like he was doing it because he had to, because there was no other way to survive. After a while, I guess you're supposed to think that he has now grown bonds and relationships with this tribe. It's hard to even understand what the relationship would be like other than him just needing for them to be friendly so he can move on. And in that, I did not feel any connections to that tribe at all. It also doesn't help that it's all told in flashbacks. It makes it hard to connect with anyone in the tribe, and also harder to connect with anyone in the present day where the show is supposed to be taking place when we cut back so often between the two. I think it would have been more beneficial if we started off showing Boba Fett losing the tribe and then building up to the present day. So you have the first 2 episodes strictly about the tribe, and then 3 and 4 about him. You skip ahead after he first meets Fennec Shand to him taking over the palace. It feels like, to me, that would have been the better structure to make everything feel a bit more satisfying and narratively more cohesive. You can make those connections and you can get to grow with them. But when we're cutting back, your mind is kind of losing focus on what it's supposed to do. Maybe that would have helped. In my head, I'm starting to think that it's probably just the story and the characters that made me not want to connect with him or like this show very much. It doesn't help that I didn't find either of the stories that they're cutting between interesting at all. For Boba Fett, when he took over the palace at the end of Mandalorian Season 2, I never felt like we needed to know why he wanted to take over the palace. I think I got it pretty quick. It felt like it just was a natural progression for him. And just to finish on Boba, he just felt like a lame dad. He wants to rule with respect. He wants to walk around. He doesn't want anyone to carry him. Fair, but I don't know. I don't know why I should think you're a cool guy. I don't know why I should think you're good at your job, because it really doesn't seem like it when you're kind of getting beat up all the time. After the first 4 episodes are done, we get 2 full Mandalorian episodes. Now, these 2 Mandalorian episodes are the 2 most interesting and best episodes of this series. That is a problem. When we get to these 2 episodes, it feels like all they wanted to do all along was Mandalorian Season 3, which they should have just done and just skipped the Boba Fett show. You start to realize that they only did the Boba Fett show because everyone knew Boba Fett's name, and they brought him back for Season 2 of Mandalorian. It became this whole idea for Disney where they could have 4 different shows going on that lead into this bigger thing, and they could have more subscribers to Disney Plus because there's now a Boba Fett show, Mandalorian show, Ahsoka show. So you really start to realize this in the 5th episode when it's just entirely about the Mandalorian. Now this 5th episode, I will add, is one of my favorite episodes from the 2 series that they've done of Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett. It is so strong. You realize just how much of a better character Din Djarin is compared to Boba Fett now. You care so much about what he's doing and where he's gonna go. He has this awesome opening with him taking out this small gang and it leading into him learning how to use the Darksaber and giving himself to this cult he's grown up in. Once he realizes he's out of that, he sort of goes back on his own and he wants to find himself again. The whole episode at that point felt like a complete love letter to George Lucas's American Graffiti and The Phantom Menace, which might be one of his more personal films, actually. I adored it so much. You go through the canyon where the pod race goes through. Of course, this incredible line from Mando.
Well, how was it?
Wizard.
It's such a great nod to the fans. You have to be such a hardcore fan to get something like that and appreciate it. That's a part of what makes the Mandalorian series so great.
Well, what if she escapes? She's got the high ground. She'll wait for us to make the first move.
After the 5th episode's done, I got it. They were just doing it to introduce Mandalorian back into this series, and it's just going to be about him teaming up with Boba Fett from here on out. Wrong. 6th episode, all about Mandalorian again. The entire point of it was to get Baby Yoda back with the Mandalorian. What does Luke Skywalker have to do with Boba Fett? Why is it happening in this show? Why didn't they just do a Mandalorian Season 3? Or why didn't they just wait until then? Why is it happening now? And not to mention, everything with Luke just felt a bit awkward, and it was because of the synthesized voice and using an algorithm to create the lines. You could really notice nothing felt natural at all. It all felt very forced and awkward. But it ends in a great way because there's something I noticed earlier in the episode, and Ahsoka was basically gaslighting Din Djarin when he wanted to see Baby Yoda.
Are you doing this for Grogu? Or are you doing this for yourself? Why? So he will remember you. If he sees you, it will only make things more difficult for him.
How could you not understand him wanting to see this kid that he took care of for quite a bit of time? Then it ends up being this choice for Grogu, and do you become a Jedi or do you follow the Mandalorian? Which a little baby thing should never have to choose between. But that's the core problem with the Jedi, which I love. They basically make Luke a villain in this episode. And it harkens back to Mando having to make a choice for the Mandalorian Kree. Those parallels were great. So then it all leads into this final episode, which is just absolutely insane. I loved it in an ironic way. It was so stupid. It was all over the place, but certainly wasn't great. And at the end, I was left wondering, why was there a Boba Fett show? And I still don't have that answer because it felt like halfway through, the writers got bored of it and just wanted to do Mandalorian Season 3, which they should have just done. And if you have Boba Fett as a character in that show, I think it still would have worked, and I don't think you need to do this one in general. But I guess that's the problem with Disney Plus right now and their platform. It feels like they're desperate for content, and this was just another show for them. So, anyways, one final note. The music is great, again. So that's a positive.